Thank you ever so much. Good afternoon to all of my audience from Liberia. I'm Kwokwan Emmanuel Myers from OSM Liberia. I will be talking on engaging youth with OpenStreetMap in Liberia. OpenStreetMap in Liberia has been a new phenomenon. It all started when the Ebola took place in Liberia. That was 2014. Right after the Ebola, you had the Red Cross, American Red Cross, that established youth mapper associations because they were the one that began everything about OpenStreetMap here. So all of those chapters, there were 5 chapters established, and all of those chapters were practically not existing. You could only contact people through chapters, but chapters did not have activities. Interestingly, chapter member did not have even what you had called user account. So upon being part of the Legit project, that was the first time that I came across OpenStreetMap when the Legit project was held last year. So we decided to see how well we can spread the idea of OpenStreetMap and be able to get in touch with all of our youth mapper chapters we have and see whether we could have projects and whatever. That was when the entire NGOs started, and it has become a springboard for most of the OpenStreet activities we are having in Liberia. So basically, what we started, because most of our activities started like 2-3 months ago, we basically started our activities beginning April. So first thing we did was, how do we engage youth with OpenStreetMap? The first thing we thought to engage youth with OpenStreetMap is to engage them through educational institutions. Educational institutions, and that was basically done by reactivating some of the chapters that we had earlier, encouraging them about OpenStreetMap, what OpenStreetMap is, what are the activities of OpenStreetMap. It's not basically an association that you are part of and you don't do any other thing. So we were able to re-establish or reactivate 2 of the 5 chapters that were earlier established by USAID in 2015. And in order to continue activities, we also established 2 new chapters. One as the Let Girls Map at Star College and Technology. And we also established another one in Nima County at the Nima County Community College. So how have we engaged the young people in Liberia with OpenStreetMap or with OSM? We have engaged them firstly through institutions, and we have engaged them with trainings, basic trainings on those resources that are provided on the OpenStreetMap, like Learn OpenStreetMap, Teach OSM. We have provided those resources, and we have also engaged them through collaborations. 3 of the universities we presently have had computer labs. So we have had engagement with the administrations in order to have a campus-based training computer lab to engage students with OpenStreetMap. Another thing that has also served to help us in the process has been the Open City project, because basically what we began was basically training to sell the idea of OpenStreetMap, because it was a new idea. So what also helped us was the project, moreover participatory mapping project. So basically, in order to engage in the campuses, we've been able to engage several campuses, and all of the campuses we've engaged, there has been a lot of challenges, but we have been able to have some fruit from those challenges we've had. So the project OpenStreetMap project has been a collaborative project that we have been focusing on most of those things that affect the city in Monrovia, and in collaboration with student grouping, in collaboration with universities, in collaboration with international organizations, we've all agreed that flooding, which is one of the greater things that affect the city here, it affect a lot of cities in the Monrovia environment. And we've chose that we will focus to collect data that will respond to the issue of flooding as we go further. So those data, that's where the OpenStreetMap is being focused on. And basically, we've been engaging a lot of stakeholders for the project. We've been engaging a lot of stakeholders for the project. Next slide, please. Hello. Okay. So under the OpenStreet mapping, our priority has basically been the flooding. And flooding is one of the stuff that affect Liberia grossly. In most of the communities we have in Liberia, it has become a seasonal issues that you see businesses, you see people that live in the environment, transportation, every aspect of life is affected. So the OpenStreetMap, we've decided to focus on basically how do we engage the youth, how do we engage other people to be able to do this. The next slide, please. Hello. Hello. Okay. So how do we empower youth? One of the things we've talked to do, because our presentation is basically a project-based, is to involve youth fully into everything we are doing. We want them to fully participate in all of our stuff we're doing. So the first thing we did was, in order to come up with the problem statement, to know what basically we want to focus on, the youth, the student community, everybody has been involved. Then the second thing we've decided that the project team is going to train all of our youth that comes from the campus base who are youth mappers presently. Even in the community, the targeted community, we are also focusing on those community-based organizations there. So we're going to train them in those basic tools we're going to use. Then they will be able to collect those data. And collecting those data while the project is going on, all of our youth mapper chapters, and even the community, we will have to train them basically to what is done. And we will have mapping tools, we will have town halls, meetings, and coordinations, and all of these things will be geared to introduce people, to tell them about the OpenStreetMap and what basically it has. So at the end of the project, because basically what we want youth to know is we have involved youth with all of the all of the stages we've had in the project. The first stage we had was we told them what OpenStreetMap is. We have trained them what OpenStreetMap is. So at the end where we will be having the project, you will find out that you have understood what basically, how did we gather this data? And at the end of the project, all of our data will be placed on the OpenStreetMap. We will also have a static map, and we will produce this and also be able to have an analysis report on all of the informations we've collected. Those informations will be available. So you that want to carry out social responsibility, that want to have social, whatever is it, they'll be able to have this information and get in their community and say, these are informations we've got in this community, and this is how this information can be used. They will know where to access the information. They will know basically what are there. Hello? I'm not just getting people. So going forward, OSM Liberia will continue to engage most of our youth and data enthusiasts that will facilitate the creation of more data, meaning we will always be engaging our youth from the campus level. We'll be engaging our youth to be able to add more data to where we have gathered data, to also add more data. And we will meet with a lot of international community to see how they could support to see the drive for OpenStreetMap extend in Liberia everywhere, so that we can use that to address those gaps, all those challenges that we have for the country. Thank you. That's it.
Amazing, thank you so much. I'll just stop sharing now. Did you have any questions from OSM Liberia to other communities on any particular challenges that you're facing, or questions you had around engaging youth? Or does anyone else from the webinar have some questions for OSM Liberia?
Okay. Basically, most of the challenges we had earlier, because our activities now has been concentrated in the last 3 months, like I said. So most of the challenges we've had earlier, I think most of the time I was able to write you, and we've been engaging in those challenges. Yeah.
I actually have a question. I've been really impressed over the last few months of how quickly you seem to have grown the Youth Mappers networks and how quickly you've been engaging with university students. I just wondered what your approach was for that, whether you go in and do a talk first, or what your approach is to inspire people to get engaged in the first place.
Thank you ever so much. Basically, what I've done is the 5 or few universities I've been meeting, I usually have the website of the Youth Mappers, because that's where I was been thinking, how do I approach and sell the idea? How can people be encouraged to this? Because mostly when you inform people about specific things, their mind runs first to what are the benefits? What am I going to involve myself into this? So basically on the website of the Youth Mappers, there are opportunities there. They are basically what you do and whatever is it. So the first thing I thought to do was, in the reactivation of some of the chapters, we wrote a cross-section letters to all of the members that were, all of the guys that were members, and even the faculty advisors we had. And we had few people, faculty advisors, that were able to respond to the letter we sent out, the emails we sent out. So thereafter, those that responded, we followed them with the email. Then I was able to inform them basically on the web base what the Youth Mapper chapters is involved with around the world, what are their activities. This is a web-based platform that you can use, build your confidence, build your skills, your social skills, and be able to use it also as a route for employability. You can also use it as a route to serve your reference, because on the campus where you see students, the essence of student being around is to have the ability to explore the world. So this is a perfect opportunity that when a student is part of, you will have international connections, you will be able to be involved in a lot of things that even the campus administrators, you can have a project, and basically those basic opportunities, those shared opportunities are on the Youth Mapper platform, and the medium in which you can get those opportunities. I first made them that you have to have this commitment, get the skills, be doing something, and you can build yourself a CV on the website or OpenStreetMap. Then from there now, you can have those connections. So these have been basically those motivating tools, and mind trend of engaging people has really been from the student angle. We've had a lot of challenges with administrators because of bureaucracy. Other people want to have a lot of bureaucracy. They also want to be protective of their domain. And we've had some reluctance, but that's basically the medium in which I've been using to communicate with them.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That's really inspiring. I think we have a question from Pete who says, I'd be interested to know how the engagement with the government authorities has been. How easy has it been? How much do they value the data that you're generating and plan to act on it?
Okay. Basically, one of the things that helped us here with few government institutions here has to do with the legit project we had last year. The legit project that talks about local empowerment for government inclusion and transparency. And HOT had its contract with DAI. So most government institutions that has to do with internal affairs, that has to do with other city corporations, that has to do with CSOs, were involved in those projects. They were involved into the project, and the idea of OpenStreetMap, they knew the importance because at the end of the project, when the map were produced, they could see the impact of the project. So that has been one of the driving medium for us. The few government institutions we'll be interacting with, they've already gotten the idea of basically what we are saying. Unlike other institutions, they won't even just picture what you're saying, and it has to take time for them to build interest.
Great, thanks so much.
Hello.
Yeah.
I have a question. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I still want to ask about your outreach to the universities, campus students. What approach are you using in dealing with students from various departments? Do you domicile your outreach to a particular department, or you make sure that students from various departments are actually involved? And then for those who may not have a direct bearing to mapping as a discipline, how do you really carry them along?
Thank you. That was one of the challenges we had earlier, because student interest varies, and in order to motivate somebody, you have to bring things to their interest. So from the beginning, like I said, we had like 5 youth mapper chapters that were established by USAID. 4 of those youth mapper chapters were in the city of Monrovia, and we had 1 in Banga. So what we did first was the one in Banga DAI project was in Banga. DAI project involved 3 cities that were Banga, that were Ganta, and Zwedru. So the first thing, the department they already have a department of natural science, and that was the department that USAID selected at the time for the youth mappers because they were involved with the quantum GIS and GIS issues. So for them, we decided to establish that most of the students we have there are people that come from the background of GIS. For other institutions in Monrovia, we've had challenges, and the situations we have varies. For in AMEU, where we have another chapters that we try reactivating, AMEU does not have NN Geography department. They do not have NN IT department. They do not have any department that deals with GIS. But they have this student grouping that they call them the scholars. And the lady that is spearheading the scholars is somebody that knows about OpenStreetMap. She knows all the opportunities. So from her side, she wants us to build them up, give them the skill, and she's made them to have the interest. Similar situation we had to UMU, which is the United Methodist Universities. We do not have a geography department. So when this idea was sold to the administrator, so they said, okay, all these things you're discussing, it has to do with ICT. So you can go in the department of ICT. So when we went in the department of ICT, we met the guy that is spearheading the department of ICT. We sold the idea to him. It was like when USAID started that, he was part of it, but it didn't go anywhere. So he said, okay, what we can do, I will allow you to meet with the leadership of the ITC department, the student leadership, and one of our classes, then you can speak out on that. So they gave that medium, and we were able to speak on that. So we had some students that built interest from our side, because it was not all the students, some of the students from the IT department build the interest. In UL, that's where we are having the challenges presently. The other chapter that was created was at Fendel. UL has 2 campuses. They have the main campus. In Central Monrovia, they have the extended campus at Fendel. So Fendel is where you have the science department, and you also have the engineering department. So you have the Department of Geology, you have students that are doing civil, and students that are doing mining, and the students that are in geology, they are a bit of involved with mapping. So from that perspective, they build interest in it. One of our collaborations we just started with the administrators, but we are waiting for school to open. In autumn, the beginning has to do with the main campus. The main campus has a geography department, and we met with the chairman of geography, sold the idea to him, and it was like, that was the best news he ever heard. So that was where we began with the collaboration. So we've had our own challenges in those approaches. But one thing I have seen is, I think discussing OpenStreetMap to a student from a business background, that his activities is basically not involved, he may not have an interest. So you can basically involve students that have some of their activities involved with basically mapping and have the idea of mapping. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just to check quickly, is Poncelet online? I don't think he is, but no. Oh, we have a question from Jess. Besides government and universities, has OSM Liberia engaged with any local NGOs or CSOs since the Legit project, particularly youth-focused organizations?
From OSM, the present project that has to do with the Open City Africa project, OSM is engaging with CSO, OSM is engaging with other community leaders, and that was similar process we had when we had the Legit project. The Legit project has CSO, it has CBOs, it has other civil society organizations. But for OSM, before this project and after the Legit project, that was one of the biggest challenges we had. Because when we worked with the Legit project, when we thought establishing OSM, my idea was basically to start working with the guys that was from the CSO, that was from the CBOs, and all the guys. But that's where my challenge started from the beginning, because all the guys can only come in when it's project-based. If there is no project, you cannot have anybody like CSOs, CBOs, and whatever. The interest is not there. We have 1 or 2 instances where we have an organization that is in Maryland that wanted us to do some mapping for them. But all of the activities we want to involve CSO around when we did not have project in between the Legit project and the present project that we've just started. This was basically challenges. Some of them are involved with other activities. They don't want to be around and whatever is it. So I think our involvement with CSO, CBOs, and other communities like presently, the project we begin, the communities that are mostly affected are fully part of the projects. We'll also have some youth mappers there. All of our trainings, all the engagements is also going on there. So basically, when you do not have project, I think there is a bit of challenge in getting in touch with CSO, CBOs until they can see the need that they want to have data or they want to use the data and they want to involve OSM Liberia. But without that, some of them, you can really not have them involving with your activities.
I guess I'll just respond quickly, Amelia, to your question. Hopefully you can hear me now. Yes, I think from our point of view, difference in engagement with students depending on favourite subject is definitely, we've definitely seen a lot of that. And I think the other thing that we've seen and is a lesson learned for us as well is not only, people or the children sort of get more involved in what they're already interested in, but we have to be quite careful in what we show them. So, you know, in terms of if we show them all a video on mapping transport, if we're not careful, everyone's going to come back and say they want to map transport routes. So really what we want to do, or what we need to do as we go forward, is to really give them more and more examples of what they can do, so that they've got more and more options to choose from. The other thing which we've seen a lot of is that because tourism is such a big driver of the economy here and is sort of front of mind for everyone, there's been lots of suggested projects where they've kind of said, oh, we want to map, for example, they wanted to map restaurants for tourists. And, you know, we sort of challenged them, or I challenged them to say, okay, but what's the actual social impact you want to achieve? And they were kind of stumped. They didn't really know how to respond. So that critical thinking element of understanding the different things they can do to create social impact is something else that we want to work more on, so that we can get them mapping more and more diverse social challenges.
Great, thanks. That's really interesting, and kind of good to see that it's not just, you know, teaching kids to map, it's also making them understand what they map and how that can be important and how that can create social change. Do we have any other questions? If not, we might wrap up early. Don't think there's any more in the box.
I just had a follow-up to Pete. So apologies if you already addressed it, but what is the age range of the students you're working with? And do you use different strategies for working with different ages?
Yeah, good question. So the school basically works with everyone with children from kindergarten age right up to the end of secondary school. So we've initially focused on working with secondary school, where we knew that they would at least be able to map. And so we were focused basically on children from 12 up to 15, the final grade of secondary school. We don't have in the school at the moment. And we'd initially decided that we were going to take the same project-based approach with all of them. So in each year, youth would define their own social problems that they wanted to solve and plan and implement their projects. What we realised fairly early on was that the limiting factor wasn't their ability to use the technology, but their ability to coherently think about what the social challenges were that they faced and what they wanted to do to overcome them. So what we really found was, to date at least, with the levels of education in the area, that's been it's been very, very time consuming to try and do that with any children under 14. That critical thinking of, you know, why do you want to map something and break down a social challenge into specific actions that you can take has been really challenging. So we basically, with those younger groups, have focused much more on mapping existing projects, and in the future they'll be sort of doing the mapping to support the projects of the older students. The other thing that I'd mentioned, which has been very interesting for us, is that we've obviously got the difference in ages, which means difference in abilities, but we've also got a real difference in educational abilities. So in one of the schools that we were working in, for example, you know, you've got a 15-year-old who is essentially still illiterate. So when it comes to him working in his group to define the work plan, you know, he can't really contribute much to the written element of things. And again, that means that developing that critical thinking element is really challenging and time consuming, but he's mastered the mapping side of things already. So it's interesting to see how both age and academic ability really affect people's or the children's ability to interact with their groups and to map in different ways. And that's probably been one of our biggest learning points so far, and something we're going to have to continue to adapt to in the future.
Thanks so much, Pete. That's really interesting and good to see how the project and your processes are developing over time. We probably have time for one last question if you have any. Oh no, that's just Russ who's typing in the box. Well, maybe we'll wrap up here. Hopefully this has been useful to everyone. Thank you so much for presenters. It's been great to hear more about your projects.